Last summer I was approached by the owner of this building to replace the upper roof shingles with new shingles. I quoted him a price. He found it acceptable and left a deposit with me, a small deposit, to hold a place in the schedule. Winter came in early last fall, and with the snowfall and inaccessibility to the building, I delayed the project until spring. And then the COVID epidemic hit and delayed the project even further. So we really didn't get started on this as early in the spring as I really wanted to, but we got underway and here we go. Day one, we started by setting up pipe staging and getting the roof ready to strip. By noon we had the staging all up and the tarps in place, preparing to strip the roof. The lumber truck arrived with enough shingles and supplies to replace the roof shingles on this entire side of the house. You can see me here going up to the truck to coordinate the delivery, telling him where I want the shingles lifted up to so my men could unload the shingles off the pallet. And then the boom truck lifts the shingles up, making our lives a lot easier, not having to carry the shingles up there. And we unload them and spread them out, dispersing the weight over the pipe staging so as not to load down any one section overly heavy. We've got one quadrant of the roof stripped and reshingled. And you can see in this scene here that we stopped shingling just short of the peak of the dormer so that we could strip and shingle up the other side and then snap lines all the way across to straighten everything up to clear the roof line. This old house had quite a belly in the roof. The ridge pole was very crooked, sagging from years of weight. I don't know how old this house is, but it's got to be at least 100 years old. You can see here on our next day of work we were able to strip one side of the dormer and shingle it back in, capping the dormer across. And then the next day we were there, we were able to strip and reshingle the other quadrant. And once we had it up, shingled up to the ridge of the dormer, we were able to project lines across and complete the shingling on that entire side. I had enough shingles to do the north end of the house up there, so we decided to move around to the north end and reshingle that area next. And these two sides of the building are done. Now we're going to tackle the south side of the building. Staged it up to get it ready. Ran the dump truck to the dump, emptied the load that was in it. So we have a fresh, empty truck ready for this other half of the building. So as you can see here, we were able to strip the little section of roof and reshingle it on that little gable dormer to the left. So our next section is going to be just to the left of the steeple. And that's a section that is shown here as stripped and reshingled. As you can see, the lower sections of the roof are looking pretty new because they were done a couple of years ago by the owner. But the high areas were difficult for him to reach, so that's why he hired me to bring in the correct equipment and the experienced manpower to strip and reshingle those high areas. So we extended the staging up higher to reach as much of the steeple as we could get to with the pipe staging. So from that new higher section of staging, we were able to strip and reshingle up quite a ways just by reaching it from the pipe staging. If you notice in some of these shots, there's a decorative detail on top of the steeple. It's a turned wood block. It's quite weathered. You can see the wood in the pictures is gray and dried, cracked. And the iron detail I call the weather vane on top, although it's not a true weather vane because it does not turn with the wind. But the decorative detail on top is made of iron, and it's very rusted when I arrived on site. Doesn't look like it had been painted in many years, maybe 15 or 20 years. So today's the day that we decided to set up a ladder on the steeple to finish stripping and reshingling the sides that we were not able to get to from the street. That extension ladder is bolted to the building, bolted to the steeple, so that it cannot fall. And the men working in and around it are all tied off with lanyards and recoils. It's difficult to tie off high above your head when the steeple is so difficult to get to, but we anchor our anchor points as high as we can and then tie off to them. There's really no place to store anything up on that ladder, so really you need to have someone hand you each piece and then nail it on. It's a beautiful day, good day to take a little trip with a drone, kind of show the area around the job site. This is East Main Street in Newport, Vermont. This first view is looking east towards the White Mountains in New Hampshire. Then we're rotating south, looking at South Bay, and then here is Lake Memphremagog. It runs mostly up into Canada. Looking at Canada here, circling back around to a view of the east. That's John Webb at the top of the ladder, and Tony Hebert at the bottom of the ladder, feeding pieces to John to nail on. Mike Mandigo is down below Tony, providing him with the pieces he needs to give to John. So the next day we stripped and reshingled as much of that lower section of cupola as we could reach from the pipe staging in preparation for the rental equipment coming. We wanted to have as much work done as we could reach. So you can see we were able to get quite a bit of it from the pipe staging and ladder roof jack plank system that we had set up. So when we stripped this section of roof, we discovered a broken board. It wasn't really anything rotten, but it was just looked like it had been damaged to the previous roofer. So we replaced that section with a section of plywood. You can also see an orange blanket over the power line. That's something I do standard on all the jobs that I have. Roof jobs to do, siding jobs. If I'm working around the power line, I have the power company come out and wrap the electric service with an insulation blanket to protect my employees from electrical shock. And then we still stay away from the power lines and try not to get near them or rub against them, but having an extra thick blanket of insulation on there is just a little bit safer. So here's the day that we rented the tow behind man lift. Tows behind the van to the job site, set it up. It's all electric, runs on battery power, and it works really nice. I was surprised how stable it was when I was running it, painting the wooden detail and the weather vane thing on top of the steeple.
Okay. Steeple. Oh, that sun is bright. There's John. Say hi, John.
Hi.
Okay, back to work.
So it's a good thing we did a bunch of prep work before we got the rental equipment in there, getting as much of it done as we could. It was a full day's work to finish up this steeple and 2 coats of paint on that wooden detail and the iron detail decorative piece at the top. I stayed an extra hour late just to finish the painting.
This is the wooden detail at the bottom of the iron weather vane, and it's been up here for so long that the weather has eaten away at it. It was bare wood when I came up here, all flaking and falling apart. You can see that the side that was towards the south is eaten away so much more because of the sun, wind, and weather. So I painted it all with 2 coats of black Rust-Oleum paint, soaked it right up. That'll protect it for a little while, but it's definitely out to the weather here. And I rotated it so that the weather side was towards the north. So now it will weather more evenly. Every 100 years or so, it's good to rotate your wood details on your weather vane.
is the last section of roof that need to be stripped and reshingled. We're on the home stretch now. You can see Larry Brown on the ground also. He was there helping us do this roof. All done. Capped up. Cleaned up. Tear down the pipe staging. Load it all up. Getting ready to leave the job site.